I didn't travel a lot when I was younger. My parents worked a lot. They were putting money aside. What little bit of traveling we did, by and large, was to go visit relatives in other states. So we would live in Indiana when I was growing up, and we would travel a lot to Illinois to see my dad's side of the family. It was close. And then we would travel some to Arkansas to see my mom's side of the family. It was farther away. Keep in mind, this was at a time when cars typically did not come with air conditioning, and they also only had an AM radio. So 8 hours in the car is a fun way to take a trip. I did, however, start to travel a little bit more when I got older, and I realized, because I had lived in Indiana, I had lived in South Carolina, I'd lived in Arkansas, I'd lived in Florida, I'd lived in Tennessee, and then at some point, my job prospects took me to England, and I lived in England for about 5 years. And what I learned from that is the importance of travel to help make us a more complete human being. When I was teaching middle school in Bradley County down in Cleveland, I was amazed. I taught 7th and 8th grade English, and I was amazed at the number of children in the 7th and 8th grade who had never been to Chattanooga. It was a 20-minute drive, but they had never been. Families get busy, parents are working, sometimes they've got a single mom, sometimes they're living with a grandparent, and it gets harder and harder and harder. But I can tell you that living in different areas and traveling to different places has really helped me see the world differently. It's one of the reasons why I think we encourage kids to go to college. It isn't so much that they need the academic experience or they need to learn more math and more English and more science, but it is an act of learning to be with people who are not like yourself. When I went to college, I lived in Arkansas and I went to college in Cleveland. I went to Lee. That was an 8-hour drive. It's only about 6 hours now, but it was an 8-hour drive then. That was a long way from home. But I met people from pretty much all 50 states and some people from outside the United States. And I learned that even though most of us came to a Christian college from the same denominational background, our religious experiences were not anything alike. The church that I was affiliated with when I was in high school in Arkansas was nothing like the same denominational churches that were in Florida or the same denominational churches that were in Ohio. And I later learned that when I went to England, the churches in the United States are vastly different from the churches in Europe, even though they all claim to have the same denominational name. If I had been stuck in Arkansas and that was all I knew, I would be a very different person right now. To be quite honest, I would be a lot more judgmental, and I think I'm judgmental enough as it is. But I would be a lot more judgmental about people. I would be much more convinced that I am right about things. But opening up that vista, opening up that horizon to visit other places, to see people who don't have the same upbringing or background that you have, leads you to be a little more empathetic, a little more understanding, a little more realizing that maybe your way isn't the only way that things should be done. Now, I realize that students in high school don't have the ability to travel far and wide. A lot of them don't have a vehicle. They have you know, 8 hours of school every day and 3 hours of homework every night and 17 hours of work every afternoon. They're tired, they're worn out, and they're poor. I get it. Travel is the benefit of the elderly. But I would encourage you, even as you're in Knoxville, in the Knoxville area, if you attend a particular church on Sunday, maybe you want to try to attend the church of one of your friends on another Sunday. If you attend a church that is predominantly one race of people, maybe you want to visit a church that's predominantly a different race of people. If you go to a particular restaurant every Friday night and that is your habit to go there every weekend, maybe you want to branch out and try a different ethnicity of food and visit someplace that has a menu that is totally unlike anything you've ever experienced before. You may like it, you may not. That's not the point. The experience is the point. And as I'm getting older and as I'm getting closer to retirement, we'll talk about that sometime this year, I realize that the gift of experience is much greater than the gift of things. And if we are giving our children a lot of things, but not offering them a smorgasbord, a buffet of experiences, we have shortchanged their lives. People are different. They worship different. They eat different. They talk different. They dress different. And yet we're all human. We all have the same type of DNA. We all have the same heart beating inside. We all have the same mind thinking. And to find those people and to understand those people is paramount to becoming human. Let me give you a case in point. When I was in my early 20s, and I only had one child at the time, pretty sure I just had one child at the time. I don't think the second one had come along yet, but I digress. We made a family trip to Florida. My wife's family was in Florida, and we went to Disney, as we always did when we were there, because they lived just like 30 minutes away from Disney. And I remember vividly, there are those little teacup things that take you from one side of the park to the other on a big cable up above so you can look down and see the park. And I was on one of those teacup things, and there was a couple of people on there with us who were speaking French. And in my early 20s stupidity, arrogance, I remember thinking to myself, why don't these people learn to speak English if they're coming to the United States? We don't speak French here, we speak English here. Can you imagine how stupid that is? How utterly impossible it would be to justify that kind of thinking, and yet there I was in my 20s. And I thought about that later, because when I moved to England, we did some traveling into France and some traveling into Germany, and I don't speak French and I don't speak German, and I was expecting them to speak English. And it dawned on me at that time, how many of these people look down on me because I can't speak their language? They are taught English. Everybody is taught English as a foreign language in Europe. Everybody. Over here, we barely make it through a foreign language. I didn't make it through my foreign language. I had to drop out of Spanish in college and take Koine Greek because nobody speaks it anymore, and I could read it and I could interpret it, but I didn't have to become proficient in talking about it. If I had encountered those people in my 30s or in my 40s on that teacup at Disney, I would have been in awe. of the fact that as human beings, we have such a wide variety of ways to communicate. And I have come to appreciate them all, because through travel, my mind opened up some. My heart opened up some. By getting outside of my little bubble and making myself available to the world, it changed me as a person. I'd like to think it changed me for the better. So I would encourage you, whether you are a teacher, a student, a parent, grandparent, guardian, whoever you are, I would encourage you, find a way to break free of your bubble. Look with empathetic eyes at the way other people live. Appreciate the difference. Open your heart just a little. In the classroom, it will benefit one student talking to another student who's totally different than they are. In the classroom, it will benefit a teacher dealing with students from 15 different countries. Travel is important. Travel is necessary. It doesn't have to be far. It could be down the block. Get out of your comfort zone and find some people who are not like you. I think you'll be happy with the decision. We'll see you next week.